Hello, and welcome to Marketplace with Charles, brought to you by Art of Skincare. Art of Skincare, the company that brings out the beauty in you, as well as Kuwisa Lodge, where dreams do come true, situated in the heart of Mabalingwe Nature Reserve. Just imagine yourself sleeping, dreaming, and waking up with a big five by your doorsteps. That is what I call life at Kuwisa Lodge. On Marketplace, we aim to empower, encourage, and equip you with the right tools that you need to move closer to you achieving your entrepreneurial dreams. Each week, we bring you insight from experts in different fields of business, from men and women of faith. Have you at some point dreamt of venturing into energy industry and don't know what it's all about? Then you are watching the right show. For I am seated with the right men, the men of the moment. Today, we meet a man that has got a wealth of experience and knowledge in the fuel retail industry, a former national chairperson of BP Dealer Council and FRA board member. And he's owning not fewer than 10 fuel stations across the country. If you thought, I have got more, well, my guest today has got far more than what I have, and I hope he's going to inspire you and take you to the next level of your life. Your success is a journey, but your success lies within the next 30 minutes that I'm sitting here with my guest. Sbonelo, welcome to Marketplace with Charles.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, sir. And greetings to the viewers at home.
Do you mind to assist me? I would love to pronounce your surname nicely.
Yeah.
And your name nicely.
Absolutely.
And throughout the show, allow me to call you Sbo.
That's brilliant. In fact, a lot of people that love me call me that way.
But do you mind to introduce yourself to the viewers?
So my name is Sbonelo Mbatha, and you can call me Sbo.
Okay.
I am a product of two beautiful, beautiful parents who are from Ngobeni, which we call Ngobeni Kwashali, in this outskirts of KZN. They raised me with, they didn't go to school themselves.
Yeah.
And I will always be proud of them for having raised someone who turned out to be what I am today. My primary schooling was from that side, as Ngobeni. And I grew up aspiring to be an accountant. Not because I knew any accountant, but because that's what my teacher told me. And then I went to Mangosuthu Technikon, tried to do the accounting, and I finished my diploma, and I then looked for a job. But unfortunately, I could not get a job as an accountant. And due to the pressure that I had as a graduate, back in the days, we had so much pressure when you were a graduate that you needed to show the proof of your hard work in terms of you need to work. And as such, I then looked for a job, couldn't get a job, and I found myself working at a petrol service station as a petrol attendant. Then I was a cashier.
With your degree?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I worked my way up until I was a manager at a service station. And little did I know that there was actually the beginning of what we see today.
You know what I like from your introduction? You said you're a product of two beautiful parents.
Yeah.
I hardly hear that. It's always the other way around, that I am a product of two beautiful kids. We never see our parents as beautiful.
Yeah, I am very blessed. My parents have got God-given wisdom My dad, I doubt that he did go to school, although he says he did. I know that my mom didn't go to school, but they can both read and write. But the wisdom that they possess is unmatched. It is a wisdom that you will never get from any university.
In fact, talking about going to school, we have got a misconception sometimes that education doesn't matter. I think it does matter.
Absolutely.
The thing is, formal education, maybe it doesn't matter. Because we have got a tendency of showing great men who made it in life without education. But if you check their background, they read newspapers every day, they read books every day, they're even wiser than the people who have got degrees.
I think the mistake that we've made is to limit education to the four corners of the wall.
Yes.
In a formal school environment. And the truth is that as much as that type of education is important, it has also proven that it doesn't guarantee one's success. There's a lot of education beyond the parameters of a formal school that one gets. As an example, I never learned computers at school. But today, I can pretty much do quite a lot of stuff on computers because education does not end when you leave the parameters of a school facility. And there's a lot of wisdom that you learn from people like yourselves. You are inspiring us, you are teaching us quite a lot of things that no formal teacher can teach those things. And we remain grateful to those parents and pastors and community leaders that continue to teach and model ways of success that inspire us to achieve greater heights.
Well, you come a long way. You have now established 9+1 fuel stations. What has the journey been like?
It has been a very interesting journey because when I started, I did not know what the end was going to be. And by the way, I never actually wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had never met one in my life that I said, I want to be like Ndade Charles because he's an entrepreneur that I look up to. And so for me, I call myself a situational entrepreneur. The situations forced me to do what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
It was the absence of anything else that I could have been doing that I found myself doing what I'm doing. So what has it been like? It has been an interesting journey because at the time when I started, when I had my first service station back in 2007, I never owned a piece of watch because I never needed one. I never had working hours. I never knew a Monday or a Saturday. To me, it was all the same. I worked 12 to 14 hours a day on average. I never drove any fancy car because I could not afford one. And neither did I take any holiday because that was not in my vocabulary. So those were the challenges. But did I really feel it was hard? No, because I had nothing else to compare with. You see, I always say that people that have been in the corporate space and that have done quite well in the spaces which they occupy have something to lose. And so when they shift over to the world of entrepreneurship, those people would probably find it a lot more difficult to readjust, mainly because you're coming from an environment where you knew that every year you have 3 weeks leave. You knew that at month end you've got your guaranteed salary.
Yes.
You know that you have a medical aid and all these fancy things that, that keep people in corporate. For me, I never had those privileges, and so I had nothing to lose. Yes, it was hard.
Do you call those privileges when you're caged?
You see, you only realize that you are caged when you move out from it and you look at it objectively.
Okay.
You see, I liken it to my situation where growing up, we were poor. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me at the time and say, Sbonelo, are you poor? Mm-hmm. I would have said no. I knew poor people, but not us. Only now that I have moved away from that particular environment, that I can look back and say, damn, we were actually poor. And so those people I can look at them now and say they are actually caged, but they don't see that until they move away from the cage, and then they will realize that actually we were caged.
And you know why I'm saying, I'm using the word cage sometimes?
Yeah.
It's because whenever these people retire,
yeah,
maybe I should say when they are forced to retire, when the system vomits them out,
yeah,
now they take their pension money and they want to start business.
Absolutely.
At an age of 60.
And that's the unfortunate thing. You see, there are, and I know this is going to provoke someone, and do pardon me, but there are a lot more, I liken the environment that you call it caged with very much similar to the prison life. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot more similarities. In prison, you are given a number that you are identified with. And in this life, there is something very similar because you have an employee number.
Okay.
And in prison, you actually do not eat at the time when you are feeling hungry. And very much so similar to this life where you are told that you have to have your coffee break at 10 to 10:30, no matter how hungry you are at 12, but your lunch is actually at 1 o'clock. And so your life is very much regulated and structured, and so is the life in prison. And I'm not at all speaking bad about employment. I know that it can be quite provocative, but in many ways there are similarities. And by the way, to some degree, you are not even allowed to wear what you want to wear. I will even give you a uniform with which I will identify you, and you will not wear what you feel like wearing. And the sad part of it is that I will even dictate to you how many times you need to get sick in a year and how many times you need to go and watch your boy play at school in a year, because your freedom is taken away from you. You see, employment, as much as it is a beautiful tool to feed families, but it is a system that is designed to keep people in bondage. Let me just say, I'm going to divert just a little bit. You see, if I buy your time, because employment is a transaction where I am buying your time. The unfair part about the transaction is that the buyer determines the price.
The price, yes.
Which is very uncommon in a normal trading environment, because under normal circumstances, it is the seller that determines the time. But in this environment, someone dictates to you how much your time is worth. But then when I have bought your time, what are you left with? That is why you meet somebody at 1 o'clock rushing around in the streets, and he says, because that time does not belong to them. I have bought that time. The beauty about entrepreneurship, so people that have understood this model have made good out of it for themselves. because it is a system that is designed to buy other people's time so you can free yourself of your own time. That's what entrepreneurship is about. Sorry, I digressed a little bit.
But what is that different from capitalism?
It is capitalism. And anybody who, every entrepreneur is a capitalist, and I am one.
And you're proud to be a capitalist.
I'm not apologetic about it because it is a system that you can't tell me that socialism is a good, it has not proven to be a successful model.
And not anywhere in the world.
Not anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So all the people that are pro-socialism have really not thought this through enough because it is a system that is unsustainable. And again, I will just give you one example. I read an article that was quite interesting. They are talking about the model of socialism, and I know we're not talking about that, but they are saying there's a professor who went to the class, and this class, they were saying, we want socialism. And he said, okay, that's fine. Let us prove the system.
Yeah.
And so he says, because in socialism, no one must be rich and no one must be poor. We must all be equal. That's great. So he says, end of the term, no one's going to get an A. We're all going to get a B. So those that studied hard enough said, this is unfair. They got pissed off. Because I studied enough, I should have gotten an A. And those that didn't study were happy because they did not study, but they got a B. And the next term, those that studied harder realized that,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it to study harder because I will still compensate for those that didn't study. So they also didn't study. And the average went down to a D until all of them got an F and everyone failed. And then they said, but why are we failing? Because the system that does not incentivize hard work and the system that creates dependency is a system that is unsustainable.
Yeah. Oh, great. Now, let's talk about the legal implication of running the business like yours.
So the fuel retail industry is, in its very nature, a very regulated industry.
Yeah.
You can't just wake up tomorrow and say, I want to put a service station in that plot. There are lots of regulations that you have to comply with and approval processes and so forth. So it is a highly regulated industry. Even the selling price of fuel is regulated. The margin that you make on fuel is also regulated. So I know that a lot of people freak out when you hear that your profit is predetermined. But the good about that is that you are protected. So it is a business that its sustainability is protected to some degree because the government will not allow another service station to be built at the expense or if it can be proven that it will jeopardize the sustainability of the existing one. And so also you can budget because you know that if I'm selling so many liters per month, I am definitely making so much margin per liter.
Yeah.
And so I am guaranteed of my income. And my expenses, as long as I control my expenses, it's pretty much a very sustainable model.
But then do you need a license
Absolutely.
to operate a filling station?
Absolutely. So there are different licenses. When you are building a service station from scratch, you're needing something called a site license.
Yeah.
And then when you are operating a service station, you need a retail license.
Yeah.
So both licenses coexist. But you can't have a retail license and a wholesale license at the same time. So, in other words, the law prohibits you from selling to yourself. You can't double dip.
Yeah, but it used to be allowed way back. I mean, for instance, we had BP or Sasol or whoever who were a wholesaler.
Yeah.
And having a retail.
Yes.
And then they only appoint a person to come and work.
Yes.
And if they want, they kick that franchisee at whenever they feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not sustainable.
Yeah. So what has happened now is the government would allow an oil company to have a training site, usually one per region. So that training site is merely for the purposes of training people.
Yes.
However, an oil company cannot. See, oil companies have a wholesale license.
Yes.
They cannot have a retail license. So in other words, the law prohibits them from owning the retail operations of a service station because they hold a wholesale license. So it can only be an individual like you and I who will apply for a retail license, and the wholesaler will supply the retailer. The retailer will then sell to the public.
Talk to me about the Fuel Rationalization Board. What is that? Because I understand if you want to operate a site, you must make an application first to the Fuel Rationalization Board. So that there's no two filling stations at the same place, or they regulate how many fuel stations are in the same area.
Yeah, so what happens is the Department of Energy is the custodian of this whole process. So the applications are sent to the Department of Energy, who will then look at the viability and the sustainability first and foremost of the existing retailer. In the case of a new license being a new filling station that is proposed to be built. So they will actually look at what are the numbers looking like in terms of your traffic count, and there are ratios that we use as some assumptions that are made, the LSMs, the zoning, and all those sort of things, the environmental impact assessment. So they look into all those things, and based on the compelling results, they would grant a site license for a new service station to be built. When you're applying for a site license, you must at the same time apply for a retail license that goes together. And so these are just the legalities around it. However, the law does allow for an existing retailer to object if they feel that the new service station is going to affect them, below a minimum threshold and render them unsustainable.
I heard that if you want a great business, one, there must be huge barrier to entry within that business.
Okay.
Two, it must be hard to copy.
Okay.
And then you will be in that business
for a long time.
I think that's what the filling stations are, because there's a huge barrier to entry in terms of the financial aspects to it, in terms of the regulation to it. Secondly, it's hard to copy.
Yeah.
I can't just go and open my own BP tomorrow.
Yeah. So maybe there is some level of truth in what you have said. Unlike a shisanyama, which I can just see you having a shisanyama, I mean, there's not little to no effort.
No, you
putting another one the next day.
You look at shisanyama. There was shisanyama, there was chasanyama, there was sisanyama, and everybody copied until all of them, they went under.
Exactly.
You look at fish and chips. There was a blue fish and chips. There was a yellow fish and chips. There was all this sort of fish and chips. And as a result, they're not making money.
And which is what makes the beauty of this business, because you somehow have a safety net. It is not an easy industry to get into, but it can be rewarding. It will not give you millions in 1 month, but it will sustain you over time. And if you look well after it, it will look well after you.
Well, Sbo, thank you very much for your time. And unfortunately, we ran out of time. And for that matter, I need you back into the studio next week. You have got no choice because you have just introduced yourself.
Yeah, I really, I'd love to come back and maybe just tell you more about how do we remove the barriers to entry, because that seems to be quite a problem right now. You've spoken about barriers to entry. We are trying to open this business up to much more people that wouldn't have had access to it.
Well, viewers out there, that's all the time we have. We will continue with Sbo next week. I am Charles Ngobeni signing off on Marketplace with Charles. You can get hold of me on charlesngobeni.com or on Instagram, Charles_Ngobeni, or you may want to go on Facebook and click like. I'll be happy to hear from you. Well, see you next time, same channel, and may the good God bless you.
Greetings, this is Dr. Abraham S. Roger extending an invitation to come join our Bible school. We want to train, equip, activate, and release you into your ministry. We offer a program from first year all the way to PhD level. We are fully correspondent, and our material and our broadcasts are available all over the world. So why waste any further time? Contact us today. And just remember, we are free and waiting to train you, equip, and activate you into the ministry God has in store for you. See you soon at one of our campuses.